Hi, everybody. Today we're going to talk about how to write a research paper. I'm using a slide set from Scribbler, so it's not going to be exactly how we would write a paper, so I'm going to point out where there's differences. This is also all written in a PDF, so if you really would rather just read it yourself instead of having me read to you, that's fine too. But just in case you enjoy being read to, I'm going to give it a shot. So here we go. What is a research paper? Right, so this is like standard stuff, right? Topic, research question, thesis statement, blah, 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 right? Contribute something new to the field. So usually you're going to be telling us something that we don't know, right? So that's the point. It's also to help you learn, a way to make sure you've read and synthesized and thought about the information, and then put it together in a coherent way to express what you've learned. So that's essentially what the papers are for me, to express what you've learned about the topic. So of course we have 3 stages. We don't like saying that we do, right? We don't really want to do this part, but you really need to. You need to look up resources, make a plan. So, you know, they're always saying, let's make an outline. You don't have to make an actual outline. You don't have to make one with then A and then little I and then little a, like we used to have to do in English class in grade school. But you really need to have something, even if it's just a list of bullet points that you want to cover. Right? What do you want to talk about? What questions are you answering? So if the assignment, like ours, says, here's what you need to talk about. You need to compare and contrast these 2 things. You need to think about this, 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 and this. Those would be part of your bullet points so that at the end you can make sure you covered what you're supposed to cover. Then you're doing the writing. And then my favorite is the revision. We never, ever, ever turn in a first draft. Even if a professor says, put your first draft here, unless they have 4 uploads for drafts. They don't mean your very, very first draft. They mean the first version that you feel comfortable letting a professor see, which should have lots of revisions in it. So I'm going to write this 2 hours before I need to turn it in doesn't work, because it really is a first draft. And no one wants to read a first draft. We don't even want to read our own first drafts because they're horrible. It doesn't matter how long you've been writing for. Your first draft generally stinks because you just want to throw it all out there. You got to get your ideas down. You got to hit your bullet points. You're just typing. Because otherwise, if you get too anal and crazy about each sentence, you never get through it. So you're just typing away, blah, blah. You get to the end, you would never submit that. Never. Don't do that. Okay. Okay, so understanding your assignment. This seems silly, but what's your deadline? You need to give yourself time. What's your word count? We want about 1,000. Does that mean 900 is unacceptable? No. Does that mean 1,200 is unacceptable? No, about 1,000. So this isn't an assignment like if you have, for science, an abstract and it says 250 words. That means you cannot go over 250 words. It cuts you off. But for us, it just needs to be about 1,000. So that gives you enough time to write a good essay without it being a 30-page essay, right? What is the goal? Get a good grade. Oh, learn something, right? And what topics are you allowed to write about? Well, this we don't have to worry about. Yeah, we don't have to worry about because you're given your topic. You're either A1 or A2. Okay? So this would only apply if you are write a research paper about a genetic disorder or something like that, and then you'd actually have to choose. All right, so we're not going to worry about this. We do want to define what we're going to do in ours. We are given this list of choices, blah, blah, blah. So yeah. All right, explore the literature, books, journals, and other reliable sources. Unless we can find it online, we're not going to the library and looking up books. Okay, well, we definitely can't now, but even in general. Variety of perspectives. Why do you need that? You don't want bias. So if you're only you're only using resources from CNN and somebody else is only using resources from Fox News, both of those are going to be biased. Reading to inform your arguments. Sometimes your research paper is not an argument, right? So keep notes. Yes. Okay. Useful quotations. No quotes in science writing. Unless it is a personal communication. Like, Dr. Einstein said, quote, I'm a genius, unquote. That is the only time you ever use quotations. Has to be what someone is actually saying. Otherwise, we don't use quotations in science. You have to write everything in your own words. And especially for a paper, a project that you're writing for a professor where we want to know, did you learn anything, right? The writing assignment for us isn't an English assignment where we want to see how great of a writer you are. We want to see how much you've learned by doing the assignment. It's another way to assess learning, aside from quizzes and ed puzzles and all of that other kind of stuff. This is a way to express your learning. And so I need to know, do you understand what they're saying? If you put something in quotes, how do I know if you understand that sentence? The only way I know that you understand the sentence is if you could rewrite it in your own words. And that's what I want to know. I want you to learn. Okay, now this is, I think, not science. So this is not a science-based research paper. This is like a generic-based research paper. But primary sources provide direct first-hand evidence. So data, right? Data from a lab, data from an analysis, data from epidemiology, data from a survey, right? Something that primary, somebody did. Secondary sources are commentary or analysis of lots of data, lots of published data. Okay, so like a review paper. Everything we know about P53 tumor suppressor gene, that would be secondary. If a paper was on P53 affects whatever protein in whatever cell, that would be primary. And there's data, there's graphs, there's charts, there's gels, there's flow cytometry. So they're examples, which I think are funny, so that's just why I left them in. I'm sure we all can't wait to look at that. This, by the way, is an amazing book. So I highly suggest it. I know there's probably a movie, but read the book. It's good. Or do audiobook. Did you know that the LA Public Library has free audiobooks? All you need is a public library card. Ode to a Nightingale. Poetry. A journal article about 19th century literature. What do you think? Okay, so primary, right? This is a book, primary resource. This is a poem. So this is like a novel. This is a poem. This is the companion to it. So this is analysis of a novel. And then this is a, a review essentially. So for us, this is not true. Well, it is true. So, okay, interview of transcripts, which we're not going to have, so don't worry about that. Works of art or literature, no. Historical documents, yes. Statistical data, yes. And then primary research, which is like the stuff I said before, surveys, data, epidemiology, blah, 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 statistics, that kind of stuff right there. And so they say journal articles are secondary. So not for us, only if they're review, and all review articles have the word in giant letters review somewhere. Scholarly books, yeah, books usually aren't primary data. They're usually talking about already known data, like a textbook, right? They're not, nothing in a textbook is somebody's lab did one time. In order to get into a textbook, it has to have been done by lots of people and it's reviewed and blah, blah, blah. And then yes, reviews. Okay, I love this. Evaluating credibility, the CRAAP test. It's as if I wrote this, but I can't take credit for it. These are the scribbler people. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, I love these people already. Okay, is information up to date? So if you're looking at the current events or current status of something, you can't look at 2010, right? I mean, sad to say, it's 10 years ago. Oh, how did that happen? Right? 2015 is kind of old. So if you're looking for up-to-date stuff, you got to look in 19 and 20, right? Does it matter? Right? Does anybody give a crap about this? There's plenty of information out there, it just doesn't belong in your essay. Okay. Where is it published? Who's the author? So is it a predatory journal? Is it a website of, you know, Dr. Janus that we never heard of that just puts stuff on his website? Like, I could put anything on my website. I could make up data and stick it up there. So you shouldn't necessarily trust websites. Now, is it the CDC? Is it the American Cancer Society? Yes, those websites you can trust. But just some random Joe's website, no, can't use that. Accuracy, where does it come from? Is evidence provided? We used to hate Wikipedia. It's still a little sketchy, but you can find lots of information there and then click their references and actually use the reference. So it's a good starting point, but don't use that as a reference because you need to check their references. Because again, anybody can change Wikipedia, and if nobody catches it, whatever. And then why the heck does anybody care about this? Make sure it's useful. The CRAAP test. Okay, so your thesis statement, right? Your central argument, what you're trying to say, you're given your topic. You got to come up with, if it's a debate, what side are you on? If you're supposed to be unbiased, where you should go from there. Does it answer your questions? That's your bullet point. That's your checklist, right? You have to cover this stuff. So it needs to be general enough to cover everything you want to talk about. Concise, contentious seems like an odd word to put in there. Coherent, I like, right? Understandable, concise, and short and sweet. Contentious, I always thought that was kind of, all right. And then it guides your arguments or guides the rest of your paper. Outline. Again, doesn't have to be a formal outline, but you need to organize your thoughts. Flow of information, how they're related, make sure nothing's forgotten. So we talk about that in the 5-paragraph essay, right? We have an intro paragraph, we have your body, and then we have your conclusion. So this doesn't mean it has to be 5 paragraphs. Might be 6 paragraphs, might be 7 paragraphs. So the body is, so this is 1, and this is probably 3 to 5, depending on how many questions you have and how much you want to answer. Don't try to shove your ideas into 3 paragraphs if you need more. Don't try to make more paragraphs if you need only 3. And so what belongs in the body? What if there's 4 things you want to answer, you're going to have 4 paragraphs. So you can bullet point or list those 4 things. That's paragraph 1 of the body. That's 2, 3, 4. Then you wrote these, Now you got to write the intro and then a conclusion. You can do it that way. If it helps you to write your intro first, to help you organize it, then you have all of those things listed in your intro, those 4 questions or 4 things you need to cover, right? You got to introduce it, key ideas, why does anybody give a crap about you? What are you going to tell them? How are you going to tell them? And then you expect, right? You're leading. Based on the intro, that's what they think you're going to write about. So if you say something about cancer and blah, 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 and then the rest of your paper has nothing to do with cancer, but you thought it was a fun fact, that doesn't help you. That makes readers confused. They keep waiting for you to talk about cancer, and you don't. So then they're irritated. So if you're being graded by the person that's irritated, that's not good. All right, writing the body, right? 1 idea per paragraph. Paragraphs must be at least 4 sentences. You can't have a paragraph with 2 sentences. You can't write more than 2 sentences for your paragraph. Then it's not a paragraph and it needs to be incorporated into one of your other paragraphs. Usually more, right? 8 sentences, 9 sentences. If you've got 20 sentences in your paragraph, you're probably talking about more than 1 idea. So it's easy to see, right? And then you go back and look and go, wow, that's, don't worry about it while you're writing it. Go back in the revision process and go, wow, this is a long paragraph. Am I still really talking about this one thing? Probably not. Or if you are, maybe this one thing is too broad of a subject for 1 paragraph. Is there a way to make this into 2 ideas? Logical order. Right? You have to write the body in a logical order. If you introduce 4 things, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the intro, then your body cannot be set up with a topic from 2, 4, 1, and 3. That makes no sense. Your reader is expecting it to go in the order of your intro. They're expecting it to flow. So your body's got to cover the topics 1, 2, 3, 4. If when you were writing it, you're like, wow, this sucks. The transitions between those paragraphs stink. I can't make it flow. What if I move my paragraphs around back to this? They flow so much better that way. It's so much easier to write. So what do? Do I just leave it like this? No. You go back here and you move these sentences. So that now your sentences in the intro are 2, 4, 1, 3. So as you can see already, you cannot have a first draft that you just typed out and turned in, because you can't do this stuff if you just typed it out and turned it in. And this is all about the first draft of writing. So first draft does not mean first crap typed onto a page. All right, your structure, right? Follow your outline, thesis statement, topic sentences, transitions. Every paragraph has to have a topic sentence. Lead them into your paragraph. Concluding sentence, lead them out into the next. You can always do these last. After you write the paragraph. After body of paragraph. Then intro, sent. Oh. And concluding transition. Right? Sometimes that's way easier. So write the body, you know the info, then you can struggle over how to introduce it so that it flows well and it gives your reader like, oh, this is what I'm gonna read. So again, topic sentence says something about cancer facts, and then the rest of your paper is all about stem cells, excuse me, the rest of the paragraph's all about stem cells, and you'll be like, what the hell are you doing? You got me so confused. We don't want to be confused. We want it to be easy to read. We're lazy, especially us that are grading. We just want you to lead us through the paper. Oh, it's so wonderful. You told me everything you've learned and it makes sense. And I enjoyed reading it. And wow, you're getting all the points. Oh, writing the conclusion. So this would be the conclusion paragraph, but you can think about each one for paragraph and for individual paragraph of the paper, or an individual conclusion sentence, right? Nothing new. You can't add any new arguments or evidence. Sometimes we're like, oh, I thought of something and I want to tell them. Add it somewhere back in. Which paragraph would that fit? I don't have a paragraph that fits. You can write another paragraph. Or don't say it. You don't want to write another paragraph? Doesn't matter. Don't say it. Leave it out. Summarize argument and central point. So you're kind of walking them through, what did I just tell you? Why might this not have been the best situation? Now reflecting on limitations, it all just depends on your topic. Sometimes you don't need to do that. You don't need to say, well, this paper could have been better if I spent more time. Like, you don't ever want to tell us that. But your limitations might be, you know, we found these results. Unfortunately, new data for 2020 does not come out until January. And with this year being the COVID year, this analysis may not be relevant to what's happening right now. That would be a limitation. Suggest areas for further research, right? We all do that. In future, we'd like to blah, blah, blah. It would be nice to add in the data for COVID-19 situation. How did that affect your main thesis statement? How does that affect whatever you're talking about? Again, it doesn't have to be in there, but can be. It's really just a summary. Tell me what you told me. Now this is our real first draft, right? Ideas, write it now, perfect it later. Like I said, if you can't write the intro sentences and concluding sentences, just write them. Still try to be clear, because you might go back and read it and go, I don't even know what I was talking about. Be flexible. That's the moving paragraphs around. That's the moving the order around. If something is really, really difficult to write, try to change the order. It might suddenly be easier to write. Cite your sources so you know where they came from up front. Oh, I've totally been in the case where you know, using all this information, you're remembering all this stuff from the 25 papers you read, and you didn't cite which one it came from, because you'll know, because you made notes on them, and then you can't find it, and you spent hours looking for where you got that information. So make sure you cite your sources. It does not have to be any specific format. It doesn't have to be APA or ALA or CMA or whatever format. It just needs to be so you know what it is. Before you turn it in, you need to cite in some format. In science, we don't use any of those real formats. I don't know. I'll have to find whatever the whatever the formatting I want you guys to use. Every journal in science formats a little bit differently. So we just won't do the one where you have to write a ton out, but maybe not the numbers either, but I'll get to that. Okay, revision, right? We never turn in our first draft. To evaluate, redraft, edit, proofread. Did you write what you're supposed to? Did you leave anything out of those bullet points? Are you clear? Again, would your different order work? Should you just cut stuff out? You have a paragraph with a bunch of information that's just crap. You just can't make it fit. It's good information, but it doesn't fit. You can't make it flow. It's too different. And without it, did you cover what you're supposed to for the assignment? Was that your eighth paragraph, right? Make an evaluation. Yes. Maybe rewrite some stuff, maybe, right? Reorder, cuts, additions, right? That's all fair game. Just because you put it there doesn't mean it needs to stay. Don't feel tied to an outline. If you if you really made a real outline, don't feel tied to that. It can always be moved around. Please watch your grammar. We have a writing center. If you really feel like your writing needs help, they can help you with English language. Sentence structure, again, that's the writing center, or look stuff up, right? The internet. Anything that's not clear, that you made, it's too vague, right? This increases blah. Well, by how much? It greatly increases. No, tenfold difference in activities, or there was blah, right? Clear, not just like it affected. This affected something. How? Made it better? Made it worse? Like, you can't just say this affected it. Anything that's too redundant, like you are supposed to have an intro sentence, including sentence, body sentence, but you don't want your body to say the same thing over and over just to fill the 4 sentences. Again, if you're saying the same thing over and over for 4 sentences to make sure your paragraph has 6 sentences, it's not really a paragraph. So maybe it needs to be combined with a different one. What else? What else, people? Yes, proofreading, this stuff you can probably check online. There's lots of different ways you can get help. Oh, and then that's it. So I'll go back. So this is just, I have to give them credit. It's the Scribbler people. Thank you. This was really nice. Yeah, so spell check. You're gonna have to do missing words and some word choice by yourself. Punctuation might come up in the grammar checks, but you need to be careful. You can always look things up. Like, how the heck do you use a semicolon, right? You can always look it up. There's Grammarly, there's all kinds of stuff. Too many spaces, right? Formatting, referencing, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you're all very consistent throughout. Because again, anytime when weird stuff like that shows up, it irritates the reader. And again, if the reader's grading you or peer evaluating you, you don't want to irritate them. You want it to all be nice. So that's it. Thanks for listening. And I got to find out how to get out of here. Happy writing.